The Ford CLT9000 is a long wheelbase 6x4 truck in the highway class with a powerful engine compared to its lightweight chassis, granting it a power to weight ratio of S, durability B+, and fuel consumption A-. I always use the high range gearbox for all no all-wheel drive diff lock trucks because you want to retain the higher wheel rotation speed potential for getting out of difficult situations. Also, lacking diff lock means I don't really have a requirement for low gear at all because I can better control the power output to the driving wheels. The Ford can run on 43-inch tyres where my default tyre is the UOD2, though if you have the Jack of all trades pack there are a few more options available. The snorkel goes all the way up to the roof of the truck, although if the truck is in water that deep then it isn't moving under its own power. For add-ons you can run nearly everything apart from the medium log frame and articulated towing platform. You can equip yourself for long logging, but you cannot have the log loading crane at the same time for this type of truck, though I don't know why you would combine the two as the crane will depress the front axle. The truck does a fair job with high saddle special trailers up to a point handling everything in Michigan with no issues. My preference for cargo transit with the Ford is by using a semi-trailer rather than a flatbed and a hitch trailer, because the semi-trailer keeps the weight on the drive wheels of the truck and doesn't have you dragging a dead weight behind you on the hitch, especially if you're shifting metal beams or concrete. As you can see from the images on the screen, the ride height between multiple truck setups does vary quite a lot, which will affect your truck's ability to drive out of light and deep mud, i.e. higher ride height equals easier mud traversal as the bodywork isn't dragging through the mud. The fuel consumption for the truck is pretty low, which is just as well as the truck only has a 280 litre fuel tank. On roads you'll only use 4 to 5 litres per minute in high range, and on dirt roads you'll consume maybe a maximum of 11.5 litres per minute. The downsides with this truck include that with a loading crane you really must load yourself from behind rather than from the side, especially with heavier cargo, as the truck will tip over easily if not properly ballasted. Secondly, the wheelbase is so long. I cannot count the number of times I've crested a hill only for the fuel tanks to catch on the ground, breaking my momentum. The handling of the truck would also change so much if the wheels weren't fully at the back of the chassis. The last downside goes hand in hand with the long wheelbase, and it's a lowish ride height, so it isn't quite as capable through mud as other no all-wheel drive trucks. Overall, it's very capable for what it is, and has seen use across Michigan, Alaska and Tamir, though not as much in Tamir as I used it more as a recovery truck due to its low ride height and the increased mud content. Now the Transtar is a whole nother beast altogether, taller ride height, shorter wheelbase and stable as anything. You can see from the side-by-side shot with the Ford the obvious differences. However, like the Ford, the Transtar is a 6x4 truck with a power to weight ratio of S+, durability of B+, fuel consumption of B+. Like the way I run all my no-wheel drive and diff lock trucks, the Transtar always has a high-range gearbox for maximum throttle control, and then also with decent speed through dirt and paved areas, though this does open me up to quite a bit of damage. Compared to the Ford, the Transtar has a slightly smaller fuel tank at 265 litres, but is very economical in the long run. Its tyres are an inch smaller than the Ford's tyres, but the race suspension is actually taller, helping it through the mud and not being depressed as far when loaded with cargo. I typically again use the UOD2 tyres on the Transtar, though again if you have the Jack of all trades you've got more options. The add-on options are basically the same, where again there is no medium log frame add-on, so it's easier to lump all of the logs into a semi-trailer and then load and pack them at the destination. The Transtar with its saddle and semi-trailer is a mean piece of work. Punchy power and driving in the right spot will let you cruise around Tamir apart from a few specific locations. Here again is a comparison shot of several Transtar loadouts and how the cargo and add-ons affect its ride height, where the semi-trailer is most optimal because it's pushing down on the drive wheels and lifting the front of the truck up. The biggest downside of the truck is actually how easy it is to brake it. For whatever reason, the hit points for the various parts of the Transtar are really low compared to most of the trucks. A number of times I had to repair the Transtar's suspension because it's made of tissue paper spit with a bolt through it. The Transtar did most of the work in Alaska, including the hauling of the super heavy trailers, which were the hardest aspects of that region by far. That and that Derry Longhorn mission in White Valley, because the Derry would not roll at all. For the little truck that could, it pretty much handled everything else without much fuss. I very much recommend giving trucks like the Ford CLT9000 and the Transtar a go if you haven't before. They may just surprise you in their capabilities when driven properly. They will obviously have limited use in regions with heavy snow, such as Kola and Amur, but I'm considering tackling the Almata region next, then a few others, just to see how much of the game can be completed without all-wheel drive and diff lock. I hope you have enjoyed this quick guide to the Ford and the Transtar. If you did miss part 1, which details how I tackled the no all-wheel drive diff lock playthrough, then click the video on screen now, and if you've watched both parts then do let me know down below and be sure to like the video and have a great day.